Thank you, John. We are really excited to share today's topic for these weekly sessions. And that topic is going to cover creative strategies a lot of you may be searching for as you are either operating a day program or trying to provide remote therapies. We've reached out to providers from across the state to find out how they're meeting these challenges head on, and they wanted to share their solutions with you all, and we really hope this is going to be a sharing time. If you have some own unique strategies you're using at your program, near the end of the call, we'll have time for you to share as well. And we're really excited for today's session. So we have 4 providers lined up to speak, and we're going to start off with Stacy Neustadt from Bio Enterprises. So Stacy, I'm going to hand things off to you.
Hold on one moment, Stacy. We're going to give you the unmute prompt. There you go. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I definitely don't have all the answers. It's kind of like having a child. You never really know what to expect or how to do it, and they are. It's kind of how it has been with going to teletherapy. So in about mid-March, we decided at Bio Enterprises to stop all in-person visits. We have clinic-based as well as home visits, which we stopped really because our members that we see are so vulnerable, and we didn't want to, we wanted to make sure they stayed safe. So our therapists did some webinar trainings and reached out to our other colleagues who have done teletherapy for a while now. And we found so many amazing tools. So then we just jumped around, and the feedback has been pretty encouraging. We've had families that are excited to continue therapy, and they've really been empowered. And I think one thing that we've seen is the involvement. I mean, parents are all involved, but you know, when we can be there with the child and the parents are modeling on the devices, the parents are supporting them with their gross motor movement. We've seen that empowerment. We even had a mom say, I didn't quite do it. So it's really been it's been a positive result out of all this. We are trying to support our family where we can. Luckily, we've had a big families been able to teletherapy, but if they don't have internet or they don't have the technology devices, we're also providing telephonic and supporting them with activity, driving to their houses, dropping papers for them to do to support with different therapy activities, and you know, supporting our families too who just need to take a break. You know, they have so much on their plates, trying to work themselves, trying to homeschool, and on top of it, we understand that as well. And so those families, we definitely just check in with them, make everything still going well. But moving to teletherapy, it's been exciting. You know, some of our clients, I think, will even still hopefully continue to do teletherapy because we've gotten some response that the clients are even more engaged at times. And then we've also been able to be really creative assisted therapy through positive friends. And we have one client in particular who is so excited that he can still talk and hang out with his dog friend via computer. Yesterday they had where he was telling the dog to do tricks in the swimming pool. So we've been really creative. The therapists have been really creative with their providing therapy. So it's been exciting. I will hand it off now to Gina, unless anyone has any questions. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but so far it's been going pretty good.
And just a reminder to everyone about questions. One way to ask questions is to type them in the chat box. If you type them in the chat box, we will make sure someone from our team reads them out loud so people on the phone can hear them. If you wish to ask a question verbally, We're asking people to use the raise hand function. So you can do that by clicking the participants button. And then at the bottom, there's a little hand that says raise hand. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9. That will show that your hand will be raised. And in both cases, you'll be called on and unmuted by a host. Thank you very much.
It's my turn to go next. So hello, everybody. My name is Gina Griffiths. I am the Director of Programs for the Opportunity Tree. It's so nice to see some of your pictures here because some of you are people that I get to see and interact with quite regularly. And it's this is the only way I get to see you now, but it's lovely to be with you and be talking to you. The Opportunity Tree, we're a nonprofit. We have contracts with DDD and we provide a whole big array of services. So all the various employment supports, rehabilitation, residential in terms of group homes, as well as IDLAs and HCBS in-home supports. And like Stacy was saying, our biggest commitment right now is to keeping our members and our staff safe. So it's a different world. It's not the world we're used to operating in. We're used to operating in empowerment and independence and member choice and going everywhere all the time. And we're doing kind of the opposite of all that right now in working with our members to be home and be safe. So we made the decision quite a while back, it feels like at this point, to close down all of our center-based programs, which was really a difficult decision in terms of our members that live with their families at home. We're working our best to stay connected with them, and we're looking into utilizing some of the telehealth for rehabilitation that has recently been approved. We haven't implemented any of that yet, but we've really been focusing on our group homes and our IDLAs and our in-home supports at this point in time. So our in-home supports are pretty simple, in all honesty, because we mostly have family members that provide care for their family members. So that's all worked out. Some of them have increased their hours in light of what's happening, and we haven't experienced much challenge in that arena. Our IDLAs and our group homes, it's been a lot. When you're a residential provider, specifically in group homes, we're medically responsible for our members. It's up to us to keep them healthy. And that's a really big responsibility that's kind of different from a lot of the other services out there. So very early on, we implemented things like taking our members' temperatures twice a day, taking staff's temperatures when they came on shift, and asking them screening questions about what they've been doing and where they've been going. And we're keeping diligent records for all of that. It's been challenging, but amazingly easier than we probably anticipated, with all of our folks staying home all the time. It's probably a little over 100 people between our IDLAs and our group homes across 32 different settings in 2 different counties. And we've just been working really hard to try to stay connected. We have increased the arts and crafts activities and the budget and the supplies of what they can do to be creative. We've set up a photo email and asked all of the staff to be documenting what's going on in the houses that's good stuff and sharing them with us so we can share it across the houses. They miss their friends. They're used to coming every day to see their friends, and it's hard to be away. So we're encouraging all types of communication so they can stay in touch with their friends. We have asked our families to not come into our group homes. If they need to come visit, we take their temperature, we ask them the screening questions, and we ask them to conduct their visit outside. We really don't want to risk a member catching COVID or any of our staff. Our families have been really fantastic in understanding that these decisions are made to keep people safe. We're not trying to restrict anybody. We just really want to keep people safe. So our families have been really fantastic about that. And I'm grateful for what they've done to help us. In some cases, they're bringing and dropping off extra craft supplies and helping their members to stay busy with meaningful activities. We can't just lay around on the couch all day. We would have increased behaviors. We'd have increased lots of stuff. So we have to stay super busy with everything we're doing. We've also just and I don't know that everyone has the bandwidth to do this, but we've made it so that our staff are only working in one home. I think we all know it's very common in our field for staff to work in multiple settings. But if someone were to become sick, all that would do would be to increase all of the cross-contamination. So our staff are all stationed in one setting while this is going on. I wrote down some of my things to let you know, and of course we're not going on any outings. Another thing that we're trying to do to help our members know that we're here and we remember them is we've started sending out kind of weekly goodie baskets. We just started last week where all of the group homes and IDLAs got a bucket with a DVD and candy and popcorn, just kind of treats. And we've got some different things lined up moving forward. We've got some spring baskets that are getting planned to go out hopefully this week to remind them we're here. And then last week, and anyone wants to check it out, it's on our Facebook page at both of our campuses. So in Phoenix and Casa Grande, each of the residential settings individually decorated their vehicles, and they came and they did a parade for us, for those of us who are still in the office. We were outside socially distant from each other with banners and signs, and they drove through and gave us a parade. And I have to say, that was really amazing. The members were freaked out. They haven't been here in over a month, and some of them have been coming to our campuses for 40, 50 years. So it's really stressful for them. So when they got to come and see that, yep, we're still here, the buildings are still here, there's going to be a place for them to come back to when we can reopen, they were so happy. Some people who never smile had really big smiles, and it was kind of awesome for all of us. A lot of folks cried. We were happy to see them. And then I want to share one last little thing, which isn't something we've done. It's just, I think, showing the ingenuity of our members. We have a young lady who lives in an IDLA. She's fantastic. She normally works, but she's staying home. She's staying safe. And she is Hawaiian. And she had been planning with a friend of hers who knows how to dance a hula. The friend was supposed to come. It was supposed to occur in April to the site and do a little hula show. And she was going to share some facts about Hawaii with other members here at our campus. And of course, we're not able to do that. So today I got a package in the mail. I was not expecting this, with a letter from her saying, hey, I'm so sad this can't happen, but I understand we all have to get safe. And I don't know if you guys can see this. It was a big package, and there's all these leis. So she's been at home making these flower leis for the whole staff. And now she expects us to put them on and do a hula dance and send her the video. So we will. We didn't implement that. That came out of one of our members. And so my team doesn't even know yet that they're going to have to do that, because I have all these packages of leis sitting on my desk. But it's amazing. Our guys, their resilience is so impressive. And my staff has been just phenomenal. And we are open to any other creative ideas other people have, because it's a long road and we're not done yet, but we're going to keep people safe. We don't want to end up like some of the news stories I've read in other states that are just devastating. I thank you all very much. And I think from here, it's going to go to Billy Parker. So
we have some positive reactions in the chat. Sarah loves the basket idea and the parade. Robin and Andy both think that's awesome when you started talking about the hula stuff. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
As a reminder to everyone to ask questions in the chat or use the raise hand function. Thank you.
I think I'm unmuted, so. All right, somebody put their thumb up, thank you. So my name's Billy Parker. I'm Executive Director of Chandler Gilbert Ark, and we're in the Chandler and Gilbert area, as you could imagine. We serve about 150 people and have a DTA program, an employment program, and also a community living program. So again, like we've already heard, we really feel like pretty early on, we became concerned about the potential for spreading the virus. And so On the 23rd of March, we shut down all of our center-based programs, our center-based employment, our DTA program, and most of our supported employment placements were businesses that closed down anyhow. So we kind of halted all that. And again, like was previously mentioned, we have put a great amount of focus on just making sure that we absolutely minimize any chance of transmission that we can through keeping staff at one single site and reducing visitors and different things like that. So I was telling somebody the other day, I was never so glad to be so short-staffed as when this happened, because it enabled us to really deploy the staff that we had in our work program and in our DTA program and really minimize any kind of furloughs. We've furloughed 2 employees out of like 160. So we were really happy about that and have been able to actually redeploy people. And it's interesting too, we found that with our directors of programs, it's like people aren't really program directors anymore. They're more in charge of aspects of dealing with COVID-19, whether you're writing grant proposals or doing webinars and teaching other people, whether you're dealing with supply chain issues, whether you're dealing with family and community contact and different things like that. It's all, we've been really pleased also about the way the staff have really come together with all of that, and including DSPs that are working shifts they're not used to working, but doing it for the greater good. You know, day program staff interacting and taking supervision from residential group home managers and different things like that. So that's been really very positive part of what's going on. As far as some creative things that we've done too, I was speaking with our community living director today, and she was talking about, you know, activities outside of the house. People go for walks around the neighborhood, and sometimes they'll go for drives with very small groups, like 2 people in a van that's big enough to where we can sort of maintain social distancing. And they've had a couple occasions where they've also met, they've done takeout food and met another house in a parking lot with a van far apart, where they would sort of enjoy their meal together, and then also had whiteboards, and they would write notes to each other and wave and laugh and do different things like that. So that's really kind of a fun thing, and people remember each other and you know, just what's going on in the other houses. Another thing we've done too is we had actually a member of our board and his wife were coming into our DTA programming and doing sing-alongs, bringing guitars and basses and doing sing-alongs. And they had been doing it for probably close to a year, at least a couple times a month. So everybody in that program got to know them very well. And after they stopped doing that, I reached out to Don and Claudia, the folks that were doing that, and asked them if they could record some sing-alongs and send them to me. So they record them, they send them to me, I convert them to unlisted YouTube clips, and then send them out to all the houses. And the response to that has been really awesome. You know, the people are getting together and participating in the sing-along with them. It's not live, but they're still participating in it. So that's been a really positive thing. You know, one of the other things that we found and that we've really sort of really put some focus on too is when we decided, when everything hit, we had a certain number of people that were coming to our DTA and work program that just voluntarily said, we're not going to come in for a while. And then there was that group of people. The other group of people were all people that were working in our DTA program or attending our DTA program and living in our homes. And we sort of put focus on making sure that they would continue to receive services. And then when we looked at it, there was only a handful of people left that were kind of sporadically coming to the program. So we were really pleased with the amount of participation and with the understanding and the sensitivity that our family members have had in doing what's best for their member and for their own family and different things like that. So we've been really pleased with that. And so in doing that, we've just made it a point to stay in touch with all of them by phone, by text, by email. They get sent all the video clips of the sing-alongs. We send them jokes. We send them craft supplies and sort of stay in touch with them. And so, we have a couple people that just do that 3 or 4 days a week that are just in touch with people that we're not even providing services to. We had some conversation also today just about how long this is all going to go on, and do we sort of start really looking at providing virtual services for the folks in the DTA program or the folks in the work program. And we're kind of just waiting. We're very open to that and waiting to see. At this point, everybody's got to focus, and things seem to be moving along really as well as they can be under the circumstances. So, and then just in terms of the way things work at the group home, in terms of our mission of just preventing infection, Easter was a good example. We had 3 parents that wanted to see their sons or daughters on Easter, and we were able to actually have a conversation with them and tell them what our priorities were, what our plans were, and they were really great. Nobody came and picked anybody up. They met outside. They dropped things off. We're using Zoom and FaceTime a lot for people to communicate with their families. And so at this point, everything is working the way that we want it to work, and as well as to be expected, I think. And so we're very hopeful that that continues, but also sensitive to the fact that every week that goes by, this gets more and more challenging for everyone, so I appreciate the chance to have a conversation with you all about this.
Thanks, Billy. There's one question in the chat, which is the sing-along you're talking about, is that the Disney sing-along that was broadcast a few days ago?
No, it's actually a man and a woman that play the guitar and sing songs like Wagon Wheel and things that people know. And they were coming to our DTA program on Mondays and conducting these sing-alongs for an hour or so. And everybody got very used to them being there, and they were very participatory in doing that. So when they stopped coming in and the virus hit and everybody got sent home, I just asked them if they'd use their smartphone and do the same thing. They'd send me the videos, I'd make them into YouTube clips, and then just send them out to all the homes and all the folks that are with their families. And so they're able to kind of continue that tradition.
That's awesome. There's a few people in the chat that think it's a really great idea, so thanks for sharing.
You bet.
All right, now we will hear from Gina Judy from Easter Seals Blake Foundation.
Hi guys, thank you so much for letting me join you today. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Easter Seals, and we operate, almost every service in the service book. So I won't list them all, but obviously we do some of the larger services like the residential day program employment, in-home service respite. We also have preschools. We also have a very huge behavioral health section to the organization. And I won't go into all of that. You guys know what those services are. I will say that a lot of the things that other people have mentioned, we kind of were on the same track, I think. We started early, and long before the division came out with what they would like to see, we were already on top of it, and we were already putting things in place. We did develop and create an isolation house that's separate from all of our other residential homes, and a system for that in case it was needed. And very costly, by the way, but we did it. We felt it was the right thing to do. I believe that one of the things that you guys wanted to talk about is what are some unique things that we're doing, and some of the things, like, again, that other people have mentioned, we're doing some of those pieces as well. So I'm going to just focus on some of the things I didn't necessarily hear. And one of the things early on that took place was we were hesitant to shut our day programs down. We ended up doing that by April 1, but we sort of did a phase in where we made sure, we reduced sizes, and we started shifting those service codes from day program to in-home services, whatever was appropriate for the individual. And along with that, we also shifted scheduling for those employees over to those type of services. So the majority of our employees that were in a day program type of role are still with us, and they are still doing services, but they just look different. And they're going into individuals' homes. And that's actually working out really well, and people are appreciating it. We happen to have enough PPE for them to go into the home comfortably at the beginning. I'm a little worried about it. I'm not sure that we're going to have enough to last, so we've shifted now to fabric masks, but nonetheless, it's working out okay. So that was something that we did. The other thing that we did, as you can see, I'm working at home today, and so likewise, we took that concept to our individuals that were in our employment services, and those that could work from home, we tried to accommodate their ability to work from home. And we were successful in a couple of dozen of those situations. So our staff provide the mechanism to go by the home, take them their work and their projects, and then go pick them up type of thing. And for the individuals that that's appropriate for, it's not appropriate for everyone, but for the few that it is appropriate for, they're actually kind of liking it. I'm a little worried they're not going to want to come back to work, but that's kind of something that was a little different. The other thing I wanted to mention that we did that was a little different, and it's so successful. I was actually thinking about maybe writing a little mini grant to the DDPC on this one, just because of the success that we've had with it. And that is because we have the behavioral health piece of the organization. We worked with our counseling department, and we created a kind of a mini program, I guess, where we went into individuals' homes that we were already going into anyway. And we were looking for activities like many of you were, we threw additional arts and crafts and all sorts of things in the mix. But we felt that this was a good opportunity to talk about COVID, talk about how their life might look different right now, what it might look like in the future. And we are helping individuals make their own masks. And they're out of fabric, and it takes obviously a few days to do that, but it provides every day that it takes. It provides opportunity to have that dialogue in a very kind of non-threatening way, and a way that seems to be kind of fun for them, and also an ability for them to get prepared for when they go out in the community, more times that they're able to go out in the future in the community, and seeing people in masks, why that's taking place, and that they have a mask now so that they can wear that cloth mask if they would like to. It's up to them. But that's been very successful, not just because of the fabric mask that they create, which is fun, but really for that opportunity to do that counseling piece in kind of a way that a lot of times counseling supports for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities aren't as successful. And it has been very successful, actually, because I think of the hand-on projects. So I wanted to mention that one because I really think that that has been, one of the ones that's been pretty awesome. The other thing that I didn't hear anybody say, but I'm sure all of you guys have just had an overwhelming support from the community. We certainly have. And groups that are donating, a few masks here and there, or groups that are, the local Pizza Huts that are, giving us free pizza every so often, and things like that are happening. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're letting the individuals be as creative as they would like to be in how they want to say thank you. And sometimes that might be a card, it might be a painting, it might be something where they've recorded a message, and we make sure that we get it back to the individuals that are donating the items. And we're kind of starting to see a little relationship created in some of the facilities with those companies. And obviously the hope there is maybe some of those companies in the future will hire some of our guys, and also maybe they will continue to support us. So those are some different things that we have done that I didn't hear other people necessarily talk about. So I wanted to mention, overall, we've had the same experience. So I think Gina mentioned when she was talking, and I think Billy, you mentioned it as well. This very early on, we put the temperature reads and the no visitors in place, and all of those very intense actions. And I'm so appreciative that our families were so positive about it. We've got some very involved families, and I know that they were nervous. And I think the more actions they saw us take, the more they felt, I think, a little at ease, like, okay, they've got this. Okay, they're thinking of that. That's great. I didn't even think of that, you know? And I've been so thankful that they've been very supportive of everything that we've put in place thus far. So I'll kind of wrap it up there, and I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has anything they'd like to ask.
Thank you very much. As a reminder about questions, so you're welcome to type questions for any of the speakers, or if you just have a comment in the chat box. If you wish to share verbally, please use the raise hand function by going to participants, and then at the bottom there's a little hand. Or if you're on the phone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand on your phone, and you'll get called on. There's some action in the chat. You know, Gina really likes the mask making ideas. There was some questions, I think, before with Billy asking about the sing-alongs more and wanting to know if he can share the links. I'm not sure if the folks would be open to that. But please keep the questions coming. I think that Gina was our last speaker, so we're transitioning to a bit more of a open question, answer, or conversation time if people have things to share or have been inspired by things that they've heard.
As people are coming up with some questions, I just want to thank our speakers for being open to share your ideas. I love these ideas. These are so great. I don't see her on the call, but I wanted to share an idea I heard over the past week from the city of Tempe. Michelle Stokes, who is one of the ADA compliance specialists over there, she had been talking to the Tempe Fire Department about supporting all of the group homes and providers inside of the city limits of Tempe. And while, you know, some of the assisted livings were a little bit more plugged in, the fire department felt like they wanted to reach out more to the group homes because they just didn't, you know, they wanted to make sure they had things. I know that we've talked in the past about lack of supplies or, you know, PPE, things of that nature, and how difficult it's been to get. And so, Gina, when you mentioned the neighborhood model, that really is kind of what they're trying to set up. They want to reach out to all of their local group homes and find out, hey, what are your needs? And then possibly ask neighborhood volunteers to drop off supplies at the fire department and then help arrange you know, the handoff there, especially since, you know, you have to protect some privacy. You can't just, you know, send people to crowd a group home or whatever. But we are trying to see if this is something that might work. It's just in the early stages, but that has transpired over the past week, and wanted to share that with you all.
So in the chat, Lindsay's asked a couple questions. One is asking about the masks. Are they sewing? Are they sewed? Is it no sew? Do you have a easy tutorial or a pattern you'd be willing to share?
Absolutely.
And the second, yeah, go for it.
They are a sewing type of situation. I don't know about the gluing or hot gun because of that need to clean them afterwards, you know, so they are a sewing situation. And I do want to put that together for like a project. And once we do that, you know, I'm happy to send that to the DDPC and let you guys check it out. And, you know, it definitely, it needs someone with the individual. But for in-home hourly services, it's beautiful. And what I'd love to do is roll it out to our residential settings without that counselor going in, but that counselor online working with our staff that are there, so we can keep the numbers, continue to keep the numbers of employees down to just the individuals, just the minimal number of individuals that we need. We are implementing that as well. I think a couple of individuals, Gina and Billy both mentioned that as well. Us just trying to keep the numbers of people that are walking in the group home to just those basic staff that need to be there. So that's our next step in that. But they are sewn, and there's some pieces that are kind of pre-done for the individuals, but the actual mask itself, when it gets down to putting the pieces together, it's all them.
So we have some more specific questions, but I want to do a general question for all the speakers here from ADDPC, which is how do you see your members having access to social media and technology right now? Do they know how to use it? Erica shares there's a critical need. So she's wondering if you are seeing a gap for persons with IDD in terms of social media and technology use.
I think I can speak to that to some degree. You know, we have a number of different people that we support. I mean, and we have a program, part of our community living program is actually an apartment program where the people that are receiving services from that program don't have 24-hour staff, and they utilize social media very regularly. And also in the event that they need to be involved in anything within the agency, we'll either use FaceTime or Zoom. One of the women that we support in the apartment program is a member of our board of directors. We had a board meeting last week, and her staff member that works with her supported her in using her smartphone to access our Zoom meetings. So, you know, so social media is available, but for the most part, it's being facilitated by the staff that are working in the homes. And we found that it's just a great advantage for people to have it, because especially video, you know, when you can actually see somebody and talk to them, it seems to really make a difference. So that's what we found.
I would agree with the same extent. They, or a mobile phone. And so we have a computer at the facilities, but to some degree they're pretty secure. So what that, at least for the group homes, what happened was the director ordered, I think it was 6 extra iPhones, and those are available for individuals to go, you know, from one place to the other. If they schedule, let's say, a FaceTime with their friend for Thursday night or Thursday afternoon or something like that, the manager can just come by and check out one of those extra phones for them. We are encouraging anything, you know, visits and those type of things that are not in person. So anything that we can do to help that out, we're trying to, you know, help out as well in that. But we've experienced that as well. The majority of our individuals do not have those types of equipment or the ability to really utilize that, and they really do need the staff assistance.
This is Gina Griffiths. I can jump in terms of technology. We actually, because timing isn't always what we want it to be, have budgeted that July 1st, we were going to put all sorts of stuff in. We were going to put computers in all the group homes and all these different things that just aren't there yet. So we do have iPhones with very limited data in our group homes. What we've had to use the most is our residential supervisors all get a cell phone reimbursement. So there's platforms that they have through our Outlook that we use, and we're having them use that. Of course, not their personal stuff, but some of our members do have their own phones or their own computers, which make it easier. But I have to say, this is a time where we're looking back and going, wow, we really wish we had all those computers in the group homes that we're planning on putting in, because there's so much we could be doing if we had it. And I've heard DDD say on a couple of calls now that they're going to look at making that mandatory for providers. I hope they reimburse us for it when they do. But I think it is a good thing, and this experience has taught us all that that's a need that is more real than we realized.
So, I mean, Amy has a question about if anyone's using an online bingo app, but I'm going to expand that question a little bit and just ask if for your members who do use technology and apps or computers, has there been apps or websites that have taken on new popularity that you see being used a lot with your members, or even, I suppose, with employees or staff right now?
I haven't really heard of anything other than the classic FaceTime and Zoom. Again, I've been probably not asking the right questions, so I think the questions I've been asking deal more with their ability to stay connected with other individuals and friends and family. So I need to ask that question. Thank you.
And I will encourage everyone on the call, if you've heard of similar things that you want to share with the group, you should feel free to answer or jump in the chat yourself. There was also a question earlier, and I know that Sarah was talking a little bit about the fire departments and community-based systems for PPE, but there was a question if there are other tips out there for getting PPE right now.
Well, we had to resort to, that probably is what gave us the making the mask idea, was that we have a group of volunteers that usually work with our foster program, foster children's program, and they make backpacks and quilts and things like that when children are removed from the home. And we shifted that group of volunteers to making masks for us. And that's, you know, that's been a plus. And I think it kind of sparked, it was very early on. And now I look around and a lot of groups now are volunteering to do that. So if you don't have a group yet that is volunteering to make masks for you, many groups are out there that are willing to do that. The cloth masks. And again, those aren't the most ideal, but again, you know, at least something.
We had a connection that was made for, and this was probably a month ago, for N95 masks, non-N95 masks, face shields, gowns, everything, stuff that we didn't even know if we were ever going to need. And we thought, well, we'll give it a shot and we'll make the order. And we haven't seen any of that and don't know that we actually ever will. But we just started talking to each other, kind of like Gina's talking about, and reached out. We have 250 cloth masks that have been made by various hobbyists all over the valley, and things that we've also ordered and had shipped to us. And they're all used in the houses. They're all kept in the houses. They're all washed in the houses. And then they're just reused. And so they're available to staff that come in. It's all part of them coming in. We don't even want people to come in wearing their own mask because we don't know where they've been, and just another way to sort of control the environment to the best of our ability. So.
Thank you. Go ahead,
I can
Gina.
jump in, and it's been very similar. We have had, I think we have 207 cloth masks on hand that wonderful various people have made for us. And I need more than that before I can mandate that they be worn in my group homes. So I'm hoping by the end of the week, because more people are promising them, that we will make it mandatory that masks be worn in the group home. And I say that, and a part of me hates it. And for those of you who know me, I'm grossed out by the fact that in these members' homes, the people who come in to support and empower them are going to be having this clinical mask on their face. Well, some of the patterns are goofy, so it won't look that clinical, but it's what we need to do. And I see Erica said in the chat, like Billy, we ordered stuff a long time ago that we haven't seen, but we're planning for the really long term, at least until there's a vaccine. When our center-based programs reopen, we're going to mandate masks for staff and have them available for members who choose them, because until there's a vaccine, and who knows what it'll look like after that. So we've got thousands of items on order that hopefully show up someday.
Thanks, Gina. So Gina was referring to Erica's question where she asked if things that you're doing now, you're planning to continue post-COVID, because now is a great time to experiment and innovate. I'll let the speakers think about that for a minute in case anyone else wants to add something, but I want to share that in the chat. Nicholas has shared that there is a way to do masks without sewing that uses a hot glue. No, he's not saying hot glue. There's no sew glue that holds like sewing. Thank you, Nicholas. So you better sew the masks. You better not be gluing them, which is similar to what we heard from some of our speakers. We also have someone who shared that there's an app called House Party that people are using right now that helps some connection with seeing each other's faces and playing games together. And the link to House Party was also shared by John. So I'm going to swing back to the speakers and see if anyone, I mean, Gina shared talking about changing her perspective on masks, but I'm wondering if there are other things you're doing now that that you plan to continue?
We are, in fact, I just this week have been getting questions about, you know, what are we going to do in terms of a reopening when things start to loosen up? What's our activity going to be? And we're going to move very, very, very slowly in that. And hopefully we don't get a lot of criticism for it, but we've gone to great lengths to ensure a very safe environment for individuals. And I don't want to just blow that up. And I'm very nervous about that piece. So we will continue some of these activities long after, you know, things start to open up, and we will enter back into things very gently. But obviously the PPE, our plan is to continue to the degree that we possibly can. No more big groups. We really didn't have day programs that had really big groups anyway, but we did fundraising events that were pretty darn huge, you know? So we have to shift all of our thinking now in terms of all of those pieces. And our day programming and our employment programming, we're already communicating and talking about some of those smaller, you know, enclave groups, how we can even make those smaller. And so we are looking at the long term and what that's going to look like, and what I've been calling the new normal for us. I keep hearing people, I think I talked to Gina earlier today, and I said, you know, I keep getting these phone calls where people say, well, Gina, when do you think that we'll be back to normal? And I respond, I don't think we're going to be back to the normal you're thinking of. So, you know, I don't know what it's going to look like, but we're going to create a new normal, and until a vaccine, at least, or until it really feels like, you know, things are safer. So that's kind of our plan.
We were talking also about a couple of things. We're actually talking about our DTA program. If everybody came back at the same time, we would all be way too close. So we talked about the possibility of, you know, when things do come back, saying, you know, certain groups of people can come in on certain days, but everybody just can't come back 5 days a week, you know, and also making sure that we have the appropriate equipment to do that also. So it really is, like Gina said, it's really anybody's guess right now as to what it's going to look like in the near future. And, you know, we made the commitment a long time ago also, as Gina said, we made the commitment a long time ago that scientific evidence is what's going to drive our program services. It's not going to be ulterior motives, and we're trying for it to not be the economy. You know, it has to be the safety and has to be the best interest of the people that we support. And that's our number one priority. So again, as time goes on, that's going to be more of a challenge for everybody. And we're seeing that throughout the entire country right now. There's terrific conflicts going on from that respect. And so it's good to have somebody to talk to about that stuff. So.
There was a question in the chat to Gina asking about, you mentioned some fundraising ideas in your comment, and they were kind of wondering what kind of fundraising ideas you're talking about and perspectives on fundraising right now.
I'm not sure which Gina.
It was you.
Okay. Easter Seals has some basic fundraising that we do every year that people are used to. We are the recipient of the Tour de Tucson. We have the Cooking with the Stars, and we have some really big events, a walkathon and some other things there are thousands of people that go to these things, and those aren't going to happen anymore. So our fundraising, you know, we are rethinking fundraising events, and those served more than just fundraising for us. If truth be told, the dollars that they raise aren't that huge, but they also serve as an awareness, a public awareness, you know, also. And, you know, the community loves those events. So we're having to rethink the whole thing. In terms of unique fundraising ideas that have come up, there is no stone that we are not unturning right now. So we recognized early on when they shut or closed the restaurants, and they said, you know, you can do carry out, but you can't have walk-in. Our development department started talking to some big restaurants and said, hey, you know, if you've got extra things that are going to go bad, let us know. We'll come and pick them up. And we created, you know, we purchased a freezer that we normally didn't have in our conference room that's now sitting there. And we loaded it up just in case, because early on we were having difficult time not getting food. It was getting enough food. So we would have somebody, for instance, a manager of a group home facility go by to pick up the groceries. And of course, groceries for a week for a residential setting with 3 individuals in it, and the staff, because we cover the cost for our staff to eat normal meals with everybody. And so even a week's groceries is huge, you know. And so early on, we were having a difficult time getting enough meats and some of those things because they were rationing them out. That's loosened up a little bit, but early on I was nervous about it. So that's when we started the freezer idea. And I think it was groups like, you know, local Starbucks and Pizza Hut and some of those places had this excess amount of items that they knew that they were not going to be using, that were going to go bad. So some of that, I mean, a lot of it wouldn't be appropriate, but some of it is easily divided up. And so that was some things. So a lot of in-kind services as well. Companies that already have things and they're not open, their doors are not open right now. We had overwhelming support in terms of Easter. We had enough candy and treats, you know, for a lifetime, which probably wasn't the best thing, but we did, you know, have some luck with some of those things. So in terms of the big fundraising shifts, we're going to have to shift those to smaller events.
We were supposed to have done the Sprout Film Festival, which would have been the 5th year in a row that we did it. I think it was actually last Friday. And that was another one of those kind of fundraisers that was really more of an exposure event and more of an opportunity to let people see what amazing things people with IDD can do as far as being actors and directors and different things like that. We partner with the Ark of Arizona on that, and we had a number of sponsors that helped us put it together and things like that. That's all been put on hold. And John Myers and I have actually had a conversation about whether there's a way to do a virtual Sprout Film Festival, which we're still talking about and trying to figure out if that's a possibility. The challenge that I had indicated to John that I saw in it is just that the collective energy is what makes that event as great as it is. And so it's hard to imagine it being virtual, but we certainly haven't given up on that possibility. We also had started a whole education program with the Tempe School District where Sprout films were being shown in the schools, and students were taking pre and post tests and talking about what they thought of the films and what they thought in regard to the things that people with disabilities can accomplish and different things like that. And that was really starting to take hold. So we're kind of curious as to how that develops, and the options for that being virtual are a little bit better than I think the festival. So we'll be continuing that conversation for sure.
So Sarah Ann in the chat, thanks for talking about food, and mentions that she's heard some volunteer groups having trouble finding food, so she appreciates that clarification. And Ann is sharing in the chat that some of the larger nonprofits are hosting some of these really big events virtually. A virtual walk by Gigi's Playhouse and a Night of Stars by the Arthritis Foundation are 2 examples that Amy shared. So thank you very much.
I want to ask if Brandy Patron is currently with us. I know that she helped getting our speakers lined up for today, and I want to thank her for that. Brandy, if you are on the call right now, did you want to speak a little bit about what APAD is doing regarding helping providers get what they need right now? And I understand she may have hopped off the call, so.
If she's not there, I might be able to answer that a little
Yes.
bit. I'm the vice chair of APAD, and I forget that sometimes.
I think we just got Brandy unmuted too,
good.
so she
can talk.
Brandy, are you there?
Can you guys hear me? Sorry. Was having unmuting difficulties.
Yes, you're good.
Hey, Sarah, can you repeat the question a little bit? Sorry, with the technical difficulties, I missed half the question. My apologies.
No worries. Did you want to share a little bit with our audience today about what APAD is doing to support providers in all of their individual activities and, you know, at a statewide level, what you guys have been doing?
Sure, absolutely. So for those who aren't aware, I'm with the Arizona Association of Providers for People with Disabilities, better known as APAD. We're a statewide association of service providers. All of our members provide services to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and have contracts with the Division of Developmental Disabilities to provide those services. Obviously, this has been unprecedented times for everybody. And so like all of the providers who are talking today, I think we've all been very creative in what we've been doing. But I think globally for our providers, we talked a little bit today. I know everyone mentioned PPE concerns. One of the things that APAD has been working on is helping our providers find PPE. So we've been sharing information amongst ourselves as different organizations find the availability of vendor, for example, that might have some availability. We've been sharing that information on a daily basis with our providers so that those who need it can try and order it. Like folks have said, PPE literally is available 1 minute and is gone the next. And so it is quite a quick turnaround, and it's also gotten very expensive. We've also then been working with the counties for our providers. So we have a master list for our members of contact information within all the counties to help them be able to secure anything from the state stockpile as it becomes available and is warranted. There are certain requirements for that PPE, but we're trying to make sure that all of our folks know who to call should they need it. A lot of times that has to do with whether you have a positive COVID or a suspected COVID individual and whether you're able to access that information. We were also very pleased to receive a donation from Mercy Care in order to buy PPE. So we are working on trying to secure masks for largely our residential providers, because obviously that's some of the biggest need. You all might have heard that some of the masks and PPE are getting confiscated by the federal government as it comes through for the national stockpile. And so we don't know if we're going to get them or not, but we're hoping that they come in and we're hoping we're able to dole those out. So we're working on some of those things as well. Then from an association perspective, we're working with the Division of Developmental Disabilities and Access on additional funding. There are a lot of funding concerns for our providers as it relates to no longer providing services, needing to ramp up different services, and then staffing issues. We have a lot of staff that for their own personal reasons don't feel comfortable maybe working in a group home, and we've lost staff. And we have a lot of folks who are not necessarily comfortable, you know, if they were in a home that might have an individual that is suspected positive or needs to be quarantined. And so we're having to deal with those staffing issues, and quite frankly, costs are going up from an overtime perspective and trying to get folks in. So we've been working with the division on that. We're happy to see that they have provided some additional funding for services, and they're working on more. I'll be honest with everybody, it's been slow. We know they've had to do a lot of work with Access and CMS to get approval for some of it, but we're hoping more funding gets into the system and hoping it comes soon. But we are working with them on that, and very much do appreciate both agencies and working with us and understanding what that the community needs that funding. So those are some of the big issues that we're working on. Happy to answer any other questions.
So in the chat, Angelica shared too that the Special Olympics of Arizona is trying to engage families with online e-games and suggested checking that out on Facebook. As a reminder, if there's questions for any of the speakers or for Brandy, you're welcome to type them in the chat, or if you want to share verbally, you can use the raise hand function by clicking participants and then the little hand at the bottom that says raise hand, or *9 if you're calling in on the phone.
And I just want to encourage everyone. You know, maybe you don't have a question, but you have your own innovative idea. I was looking through the registrant list, and I know we have providers from all over the state. So if we haven't called on you, but if you have something exciting to share, please don't hesitate. We want to hear what you're doing. We want to hear some solutions that are working in your community that may be able to be implemented in other parts of our state. So please, we'd like to hear your ideas.
So we have a question in the chat about how your families are staying in touch. How are they doing? How are individuals with IDD doing? Are people going stir crazy right now?
You know, I had this discussion with my team a couple of days ago, actually. That's kind of interesting that that was brought up. I kind of anticipated that they would be, and I'm not really getting that feedback. We have a couple of individuals that challenges with depression and with isolation, you know, concerns. And for those individuals, we are uniquely, you know, taking them into our closed day program for like special kind of outings and kind of keep the norm going for them to some degree. But for the rest of the individuals, I think that they're still in that this is different. This is kind of interesting. It's kind of fun. And so that's been really a positive for us. I also have received the feedback specifically from our group homes that this slower pace that they're seeing in the homes is helping dramatically with the behaviors and reducing them, and with administering the medications. We've had, I don't want to say it because I will jinx it, but we've had no med issues since this has started. And some of the staff are now attributing that to kind of a slower pace. And so that's been kind of interesting feedback.
One of the things that we were talking about today is that unlike so many things that happen that involve a relationship between a support staff and a member receiving services, it's kind of like we're all faced with the same issue. And so a lot of the efforts of the staff are going into supporting individuals in proper hand washing and how to put a mask on, and, you know, understanding, you know, the big picture in terms of the coronavirus. And I think that that's an interesting opportunity too, whereas I think staff forget, you know, that we're all just people and that we're learning things, you know, and they kind of, you know, there's this relationship where you're a support staff and the other person is a member, and that's what that relationship is like. And so there's that division has sort of faded quite a bit with a lot of people, because the topic for everybody, what we all talk about, is the coronavirus and how to stay safe. And so it's the theme at all of the houses every day. And so people are learning together, and, you know, people that have a sensitivity to getting their hands wet are learning to be able to keep their hands under running water for longer because they understand the importance of it. And so there's relationships that I think are being developed to some degree, and staff are a lot closer. You know, they're paying more attention, you know, people are paying more attention to each other, and they have a sort of a common life theme right now, which it's a theme that none of us want to have, but we're stuck with it. And it gives us some commonality, I think, and that I think has been a positive thing.
Thanks for sharing. There's some activity in the chat. People are happy to hear some of your updates. Pamela also shares that they've increased gameplay, both online and with board games. Folks are overall doing good. They have had some issues with increased anxiety and increased insomnia with members.
I could also add, I think one of the things that's helped our guys are doing well, and the decrease in incident reports, Gina mentioned med errors, like has us saying, hey, you guys are sending us stuff, right? I mean, it's really amazing. But I think we've also been talking a lot about why we're doing this. But, and again, and I think that Gina and Billy are in the same boat, but I know not everyone is. We redeployed our day program staff to our group homes, and we did it really thoughtfully. So if someone was a members one-on-one in DTA, that person's working in their home during the day. So there is some consistency for them. They're still seeing the people that they saw during the day, that they trusted during the day. It's just in a different location. They're still running some of the goals and objectives, even though we're just, you know, we're not putting it on the documentation and sending it in. We're just trying to maintain the consistency of what our members were used to. So it helps.
There is several links, and I'll go ahead and share it again. And I believe Gina Judy mentioned this earlier. The ADDPC currently has a grant right now. It's open until Monday, and it specifically is for keeping engagement up and reducing social isolation for individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities here in Arizona. So it jives perfectly with our topic today. Thank you, John. John McDermott just posted that link in the chat box. Please go check out the criteria and see if you'd like to apply. This is going to be a little bit different. We have partnered with the Ark of Arizona to quickly get these grants into the hands of providers who need them. We have a list of possible items that can be used. We have a very short turnaround time because we know this is an emergency and everyone wants to increase activities and be creative and put in place some of the ideas shared today. So please check out that grant information. That is going to close on Monday at 5. So you have a few days, you have the weekend and the rest of the week to take a look at that and see if it's something you'd like to apply for. But we're really excited to be able to share that opportunity with Arizona providers.
And just a plug too, if you go to that link, you'll see that there's an informational session today at 3 p.m. that John Myers from the ARC is running. The instructions for how to join that are also in the link that was shared. So if you think this sounds cool, but have a few clarifying questions or aren't so sure, I encourage you to talk to John during the 3 p.m. session. Billy shares in the chat that another app is Marco Polo. It's free and enables users to send short videos to each other. So it's another way to increase the kind of face-to-face time. I have some friends that have gotten into Marco Polo during COVID as well. Just want to give a minute here for anyone else to ask any last final questions or comments. I see Nicholas has his hand raised. Nicholas, I'm going to unmute you now.
Thank you. So one of the things we're talking about a lot of crafts and connections, and as a reverend, I feel very necessary to talk about our spiritual and mental and spiritual well-being. So I'm hearing people talk about slowing down. That's part of the mindfulness apps to talk about meditation, mindfulness, ways to connect to oneself, to feel connected to others. So I think that would be a very important thing to kind of address right now as we're moving into our new norm. So those apps beyond crafts, but to talk about all the different ways that we could just deal with our anxiety, the insomnia, those are all apps that are available out there. You can just Google mindful apps, meditation apps, and they are done. Some are done very easy to explain, so it doesn't have to get all spiritual and woo-woo-y.
And I've done some research for this for another one of our grant programs, and I also know that the Talkspace app, which is an app for therapy, is offering free access for healthcare workers right now. So I encourage people to check that out if you might be applicable. Nicholas, you're getting some love in the chat too for sharing those resources. So I'm going to go to Gina Judy, who wants to share a comment. I'm unmuting you now.
Okay. Yeah, before we logged off, I just wanted to, I thought of one more thing that other providers might want to be thinking about as well, is that in looking towards the future in the months to come, and when some of our very, very large day programs that some of our members go to when they reopen the doors. We are probably going to be hesitant to put a full stamp of approval on individuals going 5 days a week where there's some uncomfort level there. And one of the things that we want to be supportive of them, but I think that there's some challenges there with us, obviously, when we get to that point. But having said that, what I've asked our director and our higher level management group that do operate our employment and day services to be creative and come up with some creative solutions, additional services that we can offer maybe as a transition for some of those individuals. If their programs that they're going to, for instance, do not think of, or they're not going to be willing to, let's say, do something like what we're planning on. It sounds like Gina and Billy are both planning on it too, in terms of making sure that our sizes and our rooms are smaller. And that might mean that you only go two days a week versus 5 days a week or something like that. Not forever, but as a transition back into things that we are basically going to be looking at expanding very, very small type of opportunities for people, both employment as well as day programming, so that individuals that are not currently in our services at all, that we give them an option. Again, meant as a transition if that's something that their teams wanted to look at. So I would encourage other providers to also think about some of those things. They're not going to be cost effective. I recognize that they're probably not going to be cost effective, but having some sort of transition for individuals that don't really have that option might be a good way for them to groove back into things and also give us some sense of peace while things are getting back to something that's new that we can handle.
Okay, we're going to go to Nicholas one more time before we close.
Thank you again. Thank you for mentioning employment. I think now is an incredible moment where we're on a hard pause for those people who are in employment or for those who are considering it or weren't. Great opportunity to start working on those life skills and transferable skills while you're in the home to start moving towards employment. So I'm going to put a plug in for Arizona DB 101. If you went to Arizona DB 101 into the section of finding the right job for me, you could do interest inventories and start talking about those personal assessments and what are the interests to help people start moving towards. So when we go into a new norm, that new norm can include a full community inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. There's lots of links being shared in the chat with some more resources, virtual Shabbat this weekend. Also reminders to be aware of signs of staff burnout, domestic violence, and child abuse, which are very high risk right now. I want to tell people that if they want to if they want to save the chat, if you look down, there's a ... button right above the place where you type things to add the chat. You should be able to click that and choose Save Chat. The chat also gets moved along when we post the recordings from these sessions eventually after our team processes it. To close, I want to send it over to Natalie from ACDL. So thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully most of you know who I am by now, but if not, if you've just joined us for the first time today, I'm Natalie Luna Rose. I am Communications and Outreach Manager for the Arizona Center for Disability Law, also one of the partners here with the DD Network. Just want to close and thank you all for coming. Thank all our speakers. Just listening and seeing everything going on in the chat, it was very valuable information. I think sometimes we get so bogged down in our work that it's nice to hear what is going on in the homes and people, the boots on the ground, so to speak. So I think this was a really great session. This was our 5th session. We will have another one next week. I do believe we're going to have Therese Yahan from the Arizona Native American Disability Law Center. So she's going to focus in on what they're doing with the Native American community and disabilities during COVID-19. And I hope that you will be able to join us for that. I think that will be really valuable if you have some of your clients, colleagues, or people that you serve that are also Native American. this might be a really good one to sit on. We will be sending that information out like we always do in the next week, a couple days or so. So if there are any questions, if you have any questions, concerning any legal issues, concerning your clients or services that you're providing, I will put my email down. Our center right now is very, very busy, as you can imagine, with people asking questions and wanting to know what, if there's anything that needs to be covered or during this time. So I will put my email down if you have any questions for me and for my staff. Otherwise, I think we are done for today, unless Sarah, John, or Nicholas, or Jeff have anything to add for John Myers. I don't think so. Okay, I am adding my email now. And again, thank you so much, everybody. This has been a wonderful session today. And if you have any questions, always email.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.